Sciences of Bari honored him with the award of an honorable academic. Recently, he was awarded Doctor of Philosophy by the University of Engineering and Management, Jaipur. Recently, he has organized an international conference on contemporary ethics at Chandigarh. His most phenomenal book, which is widely read, widely appreciated, and widely researched also by research scholars, is uh, Luster's The Prince of Darkness. That is the first epic of the trilogy. And I would like to welcome Sir to say few words and enlighten us with your words and words of wisdom. And again, I would like to say that congratulations, sir. As we all know that you are the path shower and torch bearer for all of us. And this is you that who gather all of us here and anchored in the higher karma and doing a great job. So I would like to invite you to say few words that how do you manage to write every day?
Thank you so much, Dr. Shalini Yadav. I'm really happy and thankful to all the friends who have joined here. And I welcome you all to the world premiere of the two books. One is The Master's Voice by Professor Cijo Joseph Chennelil, and the other by me, Transformations. Professor Cijo Joseph Chennelil has been taking up the critical appreciation of my poems for the last around 15 years. And finally, he comes up with 200 plus poems in this collection, along with their critique. I'm thankful to him and congratulate him on his powers of perception and critical inquiry. My other book, Transformations, is a collection of articles which deal with social, literary, and psychological issues. The foreword of this book has been written by Professor Prasenjit Biswas. I thank him for his insightful analysis of my work. So many of my colleagues are here today who might speak on my work, and I am thankful to them. Dr. Basudeb Chakraborti, Dr. Maja, Herman, Sekulic, Dr. Kalpana Purohit, Dr. Laksmisree Banerjee, Dr. Bina Singh, Shri Arindam Roy, Shri Bhagirath Choudhary, Lalit Mohan, Dr. Lalit Mohan Sharma ji, Dr. Swaraj Raj, Dr. Rawle Iam James, and Shri Vinod Khanna, and so many others have joined to attend this function. All of you deserve my gratitude. Dear friends, I feel I am always, Shalini has asked me questions, how I manage or how I write every day. I think there is an answer. I am always in the service of the muse. And a poet is on special duty to dig the earth and find the golden grain. Today morning, I wrote this poem, the holy grain, which runs parallel to the holy grail, that idea from Christ. The truth, find the truth and share it. One strange thing I can share with you now, my personal experience, which I'm going to share, is I do not know how it happens. Just as there are never two persons of the same face, and if they have the same faces, they cannot have the same fate, right? In the same way, I think I have never written on the same topic out of thousands of poems that I have. Entirely different ideas, entirely different topics are coming. And if there is any sort of coincidence that I write on the same topic, then the fate of the poem is entirely different. I don't know how it happens. Because it is individual to man. Another good news is I want to share is that, as we were already talking, 130 of my books are available at the National Library of India, Kolkata. And Lustrous has been translated into Bengali by Dr. Tomali Nyogi, and it will be published soon by Bhasha Samsung. The International Academy of Ethics will publish works of extraordinary merit in ethics and philosophy. We have selected 2 works already. For the success of the IAE, I'm thankful to your cooperation, in particular, Dr. Maja Herman Sekulic, our Vice President, Dr. Molly Joseph, Chief Coordinator. My thanks once again to Dr. Prasenjit Biswas for his seminal address, and to all the friends for their moral support to the cause. So, Dr. Shalini, we were to release the book, but I think let us wait a little because Dr. Prasenjit, let him join, right? So we can start with our guests so that you can start with our guests so that they speak for a brief time.
Okay, okay, sir. So, first of all, I would like to invite Dr. Basudeb Chakraborti, sir. And Dr. Basudeb Chakraborti, sir, is a
Just
senior.
listen. Is he here or not? Just check first.
Okay.
Dr. Basudeb Chakraborti is there?
He's not.
Yeah, he's not.
He's
Okay.
not. Then please go ahead.
Then I would like to invite Dr. Maja Herman, ma'am.
Maja
I think
Herman.
Maja ma'am is not there, but
Yes, yes. We have a video of her.
we have
Yeah.
a video to display. So, Gautam, sir, please display the video and let us have her message.
As the Vice President of the unique International Academy of Ethics, I want to congratulate its president, my dearest friend and wonderful collaborator and inspirator, Dr. Jernail S Aanand, on his tremendous global accomplishment of his master's voice and another book, Transformations, that will be talked about by Dr. Prasenjit Biswas and Shalini Yadav. I'm right now traveling. I will be traveling at the time of your meeting, but I hope to join you live anyway, because it is such an important event. I wrote a blog for his master's voice because I think that it is a unique accomplishment today. And as I always, as I was the first one to say, and will always say, that he's the greatest poet among philosophers and the greatest philosopher among poets, and that his energy and his ideas are the greatest today. In India, I think that I can only compare him to the famous Rabindranath Tagore, and I hope that the rest of the world will agree with me very soon. Okay, I wish you great success. Maja Herman, Sekulic. Right now.
This was a wonderful message by Dr. Maja Herman. Thank you, Dr. Maja Herman, for giving such a great message, congratulatory message. Now, before inviting our next guest for the discourse, I would like to state one thing, that please be limited to 4 minutes time, so that we can have the track of time to finish this congregation. So I would like to invite now Dr. Kalpana Purohit. Dr. Kalpana Purohit is Professor and Head and Faculty Dean from Rawle Iam University, Jodhpur. Please, ma'am, say a few words about sir's works. Kalpana, ma'am, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there, very much there.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you unmute me? Just check. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
All right. So, well, good evening, one and all. My greetings to all fellow, poet friends here. And I look forward to hear the erudite Dr. Professor Prasenjit Biswas. And we miss Basuda, but yes, it was great to hear Maja Herman, where I send all my love and greetings to her. Well, the two books to be released today, The Master's Voice and the Transformations, both the titles, when I think about it, they speak in volumes about what we have in the leaves inside. So at the outset, Dr. Aanand and of course, Professor Cijo Joseph, my greetings and congratulations to you, and especially to Professor Joseph for producing such an ardent, enterprise. And thank you, Shalini, for introducing me. And I feel privileged to be associated with International Academy of Ethics and World Literature. And also to share the platform with a galaxy of great minds is truly an honor for me. Dr. Aanand, my association with him dates back years ago when we worked together for UGC. And I think I'm glad that, that energy he exudes still today is very inspiring for me. And he is a poet, of course, of par excellence. And once, like he mentioned in his preface, when I was going through his books, I quote him, he says, "There are 1,001 definitions of poetry, But I believe everyone who writes poetry has his own reasons and his ways to express himself. So is the reader's response, I think, friends, because today I'm going to speak about him, the expressions as a reader. So imbued with his philosophic truth, the poetic value of his, reverberates with the aesthetic bliss of hope and spiritual delight that leaves me always mesmerized. We promise in troth there shall be no cross. And penetrated with this cosmic infinity, I, always traverse the world of his musings, and I celebrate the poetic truth which mingles with the music of celestial pleasures and showers the elegance of thoughtfulness in galore. One certainly experiences poetic melody beautifully blending the rhythm, rhyme of music with his ideas in such a manner that it stirs the soulful strings of fulfillment with emotions in abundance. Enchantingly, dazzled by the immensity of soulful outpourings, this bard serves a window to unravel the enigmatic beauty to be comprehended and enlivened with the philosophical propensity. The emotive gestures are balanced with personal and universal feelings, and my mind gets ignited every time with the charisma of human sensibility. Reading his works in tranquility takes the soul within, and also takes flight to the exotic transience and invigorates with mystic enlightenment. Imbibed with peace and contentment, I always feel, but I'm forced to wonder or ponder, contemplate upon the mystic truths of poetic, emotions he offers. Each gem of his bewitches me with the answers to the curious questions within. At the same time, one marvels at the plethora of diverse themes, ideas, emotions, cosmos of expressions, and that are soaked with radiance of profundity and also lucidity. He breathes the mysteries of creative process, and each utterance bestows grace all around with a meditative aura, enveloped with the fiesta of social empathy too. The spiritual faith exudes with composite wholeness and capture the shades of realism and idealism together with the belief to transcend the barriers of poetry world. This petty world and also to aspire to explore the meadows of philosophical implications in a very reflective mood. His colossal amphora of variegated emotions is a treat. It's a real treat of subtle and intense feelings outpoured from the core of his heart, expressing the versatile journey of the poet on the wagon of life across the worldly path that leads to the path of spiritual enlightenment. This is what everyone talks of. I also refer to his energy and his indomitable spirit of creating a better tomorrow amidst the decadence of the world gifted by the Almighty always inspires me. There seems to be always a universal appeal through the poetic potpourri. Like a clarion call to save the humanity. His musings diverge into multitudes of inspiring poetic hues. And these different hues is a quintessential celebration of varied emotions and a symphony of life, humanity, values, virtues, ethics, and so on. It's a mirror to the world. And I salute the poetic voyage of Dr. Aanand today. I'm always enamored, sir, by your profundity, of your creative insights. And it's always a of bliss and gratification to pen down, for your books of ideas and also articulate my feelings into verbal expressions, whereby traverse it through these bountiful outpourings that leaves me with a sense of enrichment as a reader. My heartfelt felicitations to Dr. Aanand once again, Professor Joseph, also for presenting a fragrant bouquet of thoughts and emotions. And I wish you both many more accomplishments in life. My fellow poet friends, the medium of poetry can generate a beautiful world of love and compassion. As Tagore imagined it, I quote, we want a world beyond war, a world of peace, a world of culture, and world of love. So let's all of us together spread love. With this beautiful thought, I take your leave. Once again, congratulations, Dr. Aanand and Professor Cijo. Thank you so much for having me, and God bless all of you. All my love and greetings once again to the fellow friends.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Shalini, I kept to the timings.
Yeah, and it
Thank
was
you, thank you.
mesmerizing, and I just kept on listening everything, and the every word was, you can say, true and was fit to Sir's musings and poetic snippets, and I would like now to invite the next guest of today's poetic congregation, Dr. Laksmisree Banerjee. Dr. Laksmisree Banerjee is a celebrated author, Fulbright scholar, and former VC, Kalhan University, Jharkhand. Ma'am, the podium is all yours now.
Shalini, Dr. Basudeb has joined, right?
Yes, so we can call him next, or shall I call him?
Dr. Laksmisree.
Okay. Yeah, Lakshmi ma'am, are you there?
Yes, he's there.
Call her once again. Dr. Laksmisree.
Dr. Lakshmi, please unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, ma'am. We can hear you now.
I would prefer to talk after Dr. Basudeb Chakraborti. Is that possible? No?
Let us try.
Okay.
Let us try. Let us try. Shalini, please call Dr. Basudeb if he's around.
Okay, so Dr. Basu is here, so I would like to invite Dr. Basudeb Chakraborti, sir. Dr. Basudeb Chakraborti, sir, is a senior academician, poet, and reviewer from Kolkata who has taught at Nebraska University, USA. He is chairman of the organizing committee, International Academy of Ethics and World Poetry Conference. So here I would like to invite sir for words of wisdom and so that we can hear him.
Okay, thank you, God. This is morning time here. So I send all of you my heartfelt, hearty good morning or good evening, whatever it is. The president, the organizer of this academy, Dr. Jernail, Dr. Aanand, and other erudite scholars present in this online conference, virtual conference. I know Dr. Aanand for the last couple of years, and I have read almost all the books, almost all the poems he has published. And I have seen in Dr. Aanand's writing one most important thing, and that is a kind of happy blend of philosophical aspects of life, at the same time, a poetic pleasure. Poetry has been unified, blended in an unique manner that leads his readers not only to enjoy the poetic pleasure, but also to understand the philosophical aspects of life. Recently, I mean, at least 1.5 years or 2 years before, I have read one of his famous poem, narrative poem. I don't know whether narrative poem is possible according to the literary genre, but as there is a story, it is not a lyric poem. It is definitely, maybe it is a mock poem, maybe it is a satirical poem. I'm talking about Lustus. Maybe it is something, a kind of cosmic war between the good and the bad, between the virtue and the vice. A kind of war, an epical war. And in that war, ultimately, the solution, we need to wait for the time to come. So what is important to me, a kind of blend, a kind of mixture, a kind of harmony between the existence of poetry as well as philosophy. It reminds me of one thing: an artist must serve mammon. When Sinisi, written by Shelley, was written and sent to Keats, Keats wrote one thing: an artist should serve mammon. So if we accept that romantic views of one of the later poets of the Romantic period in England, if we accept it, if it is a hypothesis, then last us are this, the poems, most of the poems, which are critically appreciated by Professor Cijo of Chennai, of Kerala. He is also one of my good friends. Thank him for writing all the critical appreciation of all the poems of Dr. Aanand, who is my one of the very deep friends. Anyhow, so poetry should serve man. This is a particular school of thinkers. They think that for knowing philosophy, we don't need to read a poem. Poetry for pleasure's sake. That is followed in later period, in the Victorian period, under the leadership of Walter Pater. Yes, art for art's sake, this concept grew later on. And after that, art for life's sake propounded by Ibsen, Henrik Ibsen. I'm not going into all those details, but what I think that this is a kind of concept, under Anand's concept, that challenges the basic concept of an artist should serve mammon. And I read I read the foreword of that book written by Dr. Aanand. I tell you, after reading, I read it 2 times, more than 2 times. And while I started writing that foreword, I several times had to consult the text. It is really amazing. Dr. Aanand has blended nicely some basic universal ethics with his poetic sensibility. And this poetic sensibility, even we don't find philosophy even in the poems written by T.S. Eliot in the Wasteland, Four Quartets, Gerontian, nowhere. Even Prufrock's song, nowhere. Philosophy is totally different. It has its different domain. And in that domain, earlier, hardly, I don't say it has not, hardly philosophy was inflicted. Dr. Aanand is the first poet in the present times where we find a happy blending, happy mixing of philosophy, at the same time, poetry. And that poetry means I am referring to unified sensibility, intellect plus emotion, a complete unification of these two. So this is one of the unique qualities which has been revealed in his writing. I've read several poems, in almost all poems. He wrote the poems keeping his eyes towards not only the poetic pleasure, which he wants to cater to the readers, but also a kind of thought, a kind of meditative aspects of life through his writings. I personally thank him very much for his passionate adherence to this literary, I don't know whether I should use the term skill, literary skill or artistic skill, whatever it is, his passionate association, adherence to literature and philosophy. And Academy of Ethics, International Academy of Ethics, that's a laudable thing in this world. Today, at least, the world is dwindling down in zero values all over the world. It is not a phenomenon in India, all over the world, crisis after crisis. So his study of ethics and its values all over the audience of the world is definitely laudable. I thank CJ, who made critical appreciations of almost a good number of poems. I have seen his appreciation. He is very much a professor he is indeed a professor of literature. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Basudeb sir.
Shalini,
Yeah, sir.
Prasenjit may take time, so I think we should release the book. And please invite
Okay.
Cijo Joseph to say a few words about the book, then we will release it.
Okay, sir.
Invite Cijo
Yeah,
Joseph.
so now we are going to release the book by showing it up. So whomsoever has the book, copy of the book, please show it, and we can have the glimpse of it.
Please invite Shri Cijo Joseph.
Yes, sir. Now I would like to invite Professor Cijo Joseph for saying few words about how he critically appreciated and what he felt while reading sir's books, and the whole venture, how it came out, and some other things, whatever he wants to add to this.
Am I audible to you, all of you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good evening and good evening and good morning wherever you are. See, the point is that it's a momentous occasion, and actually about the poetry of dear Jernail S Aanand sir. First of all, I do like his poems solely because his poems are all about the philosophy of criticism, philosophy related to the ground realities of life, philosophy related to the hard realities of life. Something I can relate to. Whenever I see his poems, I have this insatiable desire to carry out critical analysis on them. Because these are all connected, interlinked, interrelated towards life in general, the holistic and comprehensive aspects of life. And that's why I like his poems a lot. And how did this particular book, The Master's Voice, come about? How did it pan out? It all happened in the spur of the moment. All of a sudden, out of the blue, if I can put it that. One day I carried out the critical analysis of one of his poems. And then he asked me, he posed a question to me, why can't we publish a book on all the critical analysis that you carried out on my poems? I gave my thumbs up. I gave my green signal, and it happened only 1.5 months ago. Within 5 days, we put the book together. It was a Herculean effort. I think he worked day and night. Sometime he used to call me early in the morning, 1 o'clock, ask me about the progress, about certain aspects and the page numbers. I mean, he was such, he was relentless and restless in his effort of coupling together this book. He showed his indomitable spirit. And I must tell you, I was so amazed, and I was stunned and bewildered and puzzled by the enormous energy that he showed, even at his age, for bringing this particular book into fruition. And definitely, I think, the entire credit for the publication of this book must go to him, because he was breathing down on my neck, if I can put it that way. But not in the pejorative sense, but in the positive sense. And he gave his heart and soul to it. I was only responding to what he asked. And the full credit to him for the publication of this book, because I carried out the critical analysis of his poems out of one. For me, literature is all about love. It has nothing to do with anything. It's a labor of love. I would carry out the critical analysis of almost many poems from across the world, and this is all about fun for me. I derive a joy and acute happiness out of it. But I never thought that this kind of funny thing would come to this kind of structured exercise. And even he promised me that we would come out with a part 2 of this book, when the master's voice. So thank you very much, Jernail sir, for your constant backing of me in every step of me. Definitely, because he only found me. He only, I must say, discovered me. And I'm really eternally, profoundly, and deeply indebted. Make no mistake about it. Because he only brought this into being. And I'm really grateful to this great man. Make no mistake about it. Secondly, all the prominent and eminent dignitaries present over here for the release of this book, I'm very thankful to them. Many of them are known to me, and many of their poems, a few of their poems, I put a critical analysis to prove their poems. And it's very nice that you are all here to support us, to back us, to give your full backing, your tacit backing. Thank you so much to all of you for everything. Thank you so much.
Very good. Cijo, Joseph, Professor Saab, thank you very much from my side. And I wish you continue with this marathon work on other authors also. And one more thing I would like you to do is to carry out some sustained theoretical work.
Correct.
Writing so much,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Getting so many points.
Yeah.
Develop your own,
Yeah, correct.
some theoretical points so that there is something, some solid, you can give something solid to the literary world. That is my dream about you.
Yes, yes. Let us all serve the cause of literature. Brought you to this world by you, I think, through love.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
thank you.
All the best.
Thank you so much, sir.
Shalini, please
Thank
carry
you.
on.
So congratulations once again, Dr. Jernail and Professor Cijo. Now I would like to go ahead with Dr. Laksmisree Banerjee. Ma'am, please continue with your discourse about the works of Dr. Jernail.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I can't see myself. Can you see me?
But
see
you
you
are
and hear
visible
you.
to us.
I can't see myself. I don't know. Is it okay to bring my picture in front of me because I can't see myself? Is it there?
Then in case you will have to
See you.
you have to pin yourself.
Hello?
Yes.
No, it's not there.
There are 3 dots, and in those 3 dots, when you will click on your particular column, so you will find the
3 dots.
word pin.
Where is the 3 dots?
Just click on that. Pin.
Pin.
Yes.
Where is pin?
That pin word.
You are
No,
already
there is
pinned.
me.
We can see you. Please go ahead.
But you may be not visible to yourself, but you are visible to us. And if you want us to click
please
your
carry
pin,
on.
I will take screenshot.
Okay. I mean, I would have to talk like a blind person, but anyway, it doesn't matter. It's not about me. It is about Dr. Jernail Aanand. I can't see myself. Anyway, it's always nice to see oneself and talk because I don't know what I'm saying. But anyway, as usual, for the contemporary world, especially for the last 25 years at least, there has been a consistent way of producing, teaching, and understanding poetry. And that is where the author's intention or the author's venture into poetry is not so important as the reader's response. So I am here today talking more like a reader, where I see Dr. Aanand's poetry is primarily most of his poetry, they are into the multiverse of mega epics, narrative poetry, as Basudeb ji said. It is not the poetry that we see among either the Victorians or the Romantics or even the contemporaries. It is primarily philosophy through which, through his own mastermind, he's churning epics to rectify an errant culture, a dissolute culture. So I will place it more as poetic philosophy rather than philosophical poetry, because there are many undercurrents which come to the fore, just like when we discussed philosophy. So it is more like ethical poetry rather than postmodern poetry. It is rather postmodern epic. And whenever we say epic, there is a great, what should I say, churning between the good and the evil in any epic, whether it's Homer, whether it's Virgil, whether it's Dante, whether it's Ramayana, whether it's Mahabharata. These are all about the conflict-ridden world where there is a great war between the good and the evil. So this is the foundation, I believe, of Dr. Aanand's philosophical poetry, or rather poetic philosophy, because it is addressing the human mind. Most of the times, he is addressing the human mind rather than the cryptic human senses or the cryptic human soul. It is more like what Wordsworth says, not that he writes in that kind of poetic mode, but Wordsworth has talked about the feeling intellect. I would like to, I don't know, I'm not the right person to categorize any kind of poetry, but I feel the feeling intellect predominates Dr. Anand's poetry, because when we talk, just now Basudebji talked about Keats, but the basic, I did 5 years of work on John Keats for my dissertation. Now, the central point of Keats, about Keats, is his negative capability, which means he says the poetic character who is totally into poetry takes as much delight in an Iago as in Imogen, in goodness as much as in badness or evil. But the epic world is not that. The philosophical world is not that. So it is more like these are postmodern epics talking about a dissolute, errant, degenerate culture, which the mastermind of the philosopher poet is trying to endlessly trying to rectify. I mean, this is how I read his poetry, and I would like to see it as a postmodern epic rather than narrative poetry and philosophy, rather than anything which is cryptic or anything which has dichotomy or anything which has duality. There is a very open duality of the good and the evil, and all the time the master voice is there to say, well, why don't you introspect? Why don't you go into rumination? Why don't you go into the retrospective sphere and see what you're doing to humanity or the human race? So in that sense, it is almost like poetic pedagogy. It is poetic pedagogy, according to me, and it is ethics, which is very important for today's civilization. And it is a very different and unique kind of poetry. It's a very different, and here you have the master voice, a very rightly said, the master voice, the pedagogic voice, which is trying to always say that, here, listen to me, this is where we are going wrong, this is where even I am going wrong, as for the poet himself, that we as humans, we are going wrong. So ethics prevails more than any kind of spiritual revelry. Or maybe the spiritual revelry is there, but it is subterranean. It is nevertheless a unique kind of poetry, because this is a poetry which actually Dr. Jernail Aanand has written, is continuing to write, and he remains in his exclusive sphere of poetic writing. And that is his own exclusive sphere. So I think I've been with him for a very long time. I've written a lot of reviews and forwards, and and I've always said that it is in the realm of postmodern epics. It is in the realm of mega narratives, and that is what I believe in. And that is where the uniqueness, the singularity, and the exclusiveness of Dr. Jernail Aanand sort of proclaims itself, being something which is unique. Thank you very much, Dr. Aanand, and all the erudite people, for giving me this opportunity to speak in what I feel is a singularity of Dr. Aanand's philosophic poetry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. It is like Gagar mein Sagar bhar dena, and you have covered so many things and added more value to Sir's poetry with your own insights. Now I would like to invite our next guest, Arindam sir, but Arindam sir has messaged in conference group that he's trying to log in and his network has gone. So I would go with the next candidate, Dr. Bina Singh.
Shalini, I think Dr. Biswas has joined.
Okay,
Please
okay.
call him up.
Okay, Dr. Prasenjit has joined.
Yes, he has joined.
Yeah, okay.
Good.
So
Just
I would like to invite
welcome
Dr.
him to
Prasenjit sir.
by reading out his
Before
bio.
that, I would introduce Dr. Prasenjit Biswas. He is a professor of philosophy at NEHU, Shillong since 2011. His specializations are phenomenology and continental philosophy, philosophy of science, philosophy of Northeast Indian communities and tribes, contemporary Indian philosophy, consciousness studies, etc. Besides, he is an independent political theorist and analyst, commentator. He taught philosophy at IIT Dhanbad, IIT Bombay, IIT Guwahati, Assam University. As his previous assignment, he has visited with academic assignments at Cambridge University, TISS Mumbai, JNU, Ravindra Bharati University, and many other universities, Copenhagen, University of Western Australia, University of Tartu, etc. A widely read and traveled scholar, he looks after newly created Office of International Affairs at NEHU, Shillong. He is a recipient of East Lyon Residential Scholarship at Wayne State University, USA, and got Doctoral Jawaharlal Nehru Memorial Scholarship of Government of India. His published books include Ethnic Life, Worlds in Northeast India, The Postmodern Controversy Between Philosophy and Anthropology, etc. His current manuscripts are various, and he is still working. And he has guided more than 10 doctoral theses in philosophy, and his present interest spans through technology and non-philosophy travelogues of Ramnath Biswas and Anushilon Samiti. So I would like to invite Dr. Prasenjit Biswas, sir, for philosophical concerns about Dr. Jernail sir's works.
Thank you, Dr. Yadav, and the other colleagues here who are present this evening. A very good evening to you. I actually got a little stuck into something, and I was under the impression that we start at 8 p.m. But anyway, that was my mistake, a kind of delusional mistake. I deeply apologize to Professor Jernail Singh and others for getting delayed. I'm so sorry. So the question that is given to me to address is Professor Jernail Singh's philosophical concerns. And Professor Singh has recently published a work on ethics. It's called Transformations. And indeed, I was privileged sort of to write the foreword, the prefatory foreword for this book. And in my foreword, I had already stated that Professor Singh has developed a wonderful framework, for overcoming what he calls as ethical hollow. By this term, ethical hollow, he means a certain amount of depersonalization, a certain type of behavior that doesn't follow an ethical principle to support what someone decides to act or someone chooses in a certain way. So modern life is dotted with a kind of foundational ethical hollow. So the ethical hollow has to be overcome by helping others, by engaging oneself in a kind of into a kind of an ethical faith about how one approaches the higher reality, such as God. So morality, ethics, and God are both higher reality, as well as they are part of lived experience of someone. Professor Singh argues in both ways. At one level, he is a strong advocate of surrendering oneself before the ultimate reality, which is called the God, by Guru Nanak, for example, whom he cites. And Guru is a universal Guru whose ideals and messages have inspired millions. And people have dedicated themselves to selfless service of humanity, being inspired by Guru Nanak's vision. Professor Singh actively pursues vision that is provided by Guru Nanak and which is available in Guru Granth Sahib. And that's a kind of a foundational, fundamental kind of setup that Professor Singh creates for his own argumentation. And this argumentation goes a long way in identifying a few of the tendencies that individuals in modern society display. One of the tendency is to have some kind of selfish individualism. Selfish individualism that never leads to a certain kind of a liberation or salvation for oneself, And that is a main concern that Professor Singh has, that one has to be led to a spotless pathway to liberation. And that spotless pathway has to be found out from one of the edicts of Guru Nanak Dev, which he quotes very nicely in his book. It's called Gal Khaye Kuch Hato De Nanak Ra Pachne Se, a rather simple moral principle of remaining committed and remaining ready to help others. Now this idea of help, this idea of service, this idea of dedicating oneself to the suffering people, to alleviate the causes of misery and suffering, and to probably integrate oneself with others by placing oneself in the shoe of the other, a certain sense of love and empathy that remains as our fundamental human concern. Ethics is not outside this fundamental human concern. Ethics grows from these foundational values, these fundamental human concerns of being able to establish a kind of love and empathy with people who are suffering and who deserves a certain kind of empathy, a certain kind of co-belonging, a kind of co-empathizing, co-sharing, co-living, and establishing a certain community of shared values, of shared ethical principles. So Professor Singh wants a shared community of ethical values and principles. And this, one exemplar for this is Guru Nanak Dev himself. And we must have an ethical exemplar to follow the path that is shown by the ethical exemplar. And Guru Nanak Dev shows us a path towards infinity by moving away from our finitude, by moving away from the bounds of and the morass of ordinary human life that suffers from a lot of backsliding, that regresses us back to a situation in which unethical compromises are done for some allurement, for some selfish gains. So one needs to move out of these tendencies of selfishness, this tendenciousness, and one has to probably correct one's own ethical and moral compass all the time by following the paths showed by Guru Nanak Dev. And this is one of the major concern that Professor Singh expresses in his fascinating book called Transformation. The other important thing that Professor Singh raises is the need for practical ethical action. Ethical action is no longer just following certain ethical principles. It's no longer a desire for salvaging oneself from the ordinariness of ordinary life. It's not only an attempt to elevate oneself from what pulls one down, but it certainly is a call for better understanding of how practical action can establish a better sense of morality, a better sense of ethics. And this is something, again, exemplified by Professor Jernail Singh when he quotes Guru Nanak Dev, and he quotes him, Kirat karo, band chako. Kirat karo means work hard, and band chako, share your earning with the needy. And nam japo, remember God. Now, in how many names we remember God? Do we see the God in the other person? Do we see God's footprints in our decision-making capacities? Do we follow God closely in order to arrive at a justiciable, a justifiable, a fair, a balanced moral understanding of our own action vis-a-vis others? How do we judge all the time on the ethical scale what we are doing, what we are thinking in relation to the other? That is an important question for Professor Singh. And therefore, there is a need for raising our ethical consciousness, a need for enhancing our moral consciousness. And this need for raising and enhancing is something that is inactive. It's a kind of an inaction. By inaction, one simply doesn't mean a kind of action that follows from a certain motivation to decision to an action. But inaction would mean a kind of immersion, an immersive reality for an actor, where the ethical actor immerses herself into the course of ethical action that leads to a certain kind of a change, a transformation of one's body, a transformation of one's soul, a transformation of one's very existence itself. So an existential transformation in terms of an active way of acting ethically is something that Professor Singh brings out by combining Kirat Karo, work hard, with Banchako, share your earning with the needy, and Nam Japa, remember God. You remember God, provided you are able to share something that you hold very dear to yourself, something that you are ready to part with the needy. If you have that absolute sense of sharing and parting, whatever you have, the best possible resources that you can give out, you can dish out, or you can give unconditionally, unselfishly towards one who is needy, then you overcome the tendenciousness to become selfish. So it's a kind of a ethical prescription in order to be reflected, not only in enactive practical action, but also in the moral character that one needs to inculcate by making oneself sensible and sensitive to the need of the other, so that one is always ready to part with the essential resources, including one's own income, one's own earning, And this is something we see even in the biblical context, when a Bible prescribes that you earn righteousness. How do you earn righteousness? You earn righteousness by pursuing a righteous living. And a righteous living is always to support someone else in a righteous manner. So righteous living is not confined to one's own solitary, singular self, but it is expanding one's own self-consciousness to the need of the hour by dedicating all that material resources which is in possession of someone. And therefore, it's a kind of renunciation. It's a kind of giving up, sacrificing without expecting any return. In the language of Western moral philosophy, in the language of Immanuel Kant, it's treating the other not just as a means, but as an end in itself. The other has to be treated as an ultimate end towards which all your action are guided or driven, so that you can reach the noblest possible, the loftiest possible end that can be charted out by you in order to elevate yourself from the morass of the tendency selfishness and from remaining insensitive and insensible towards the need of the others. So this is something very fundamental, foundational to lead such an ethical life in the understanding of Professor Singh's. And he beautifully calls this as a transformation. This is a journey towards transformation. Without this journey, we need to really speak, hollow, the ethical. We need to cultivate something like a proper ethical sensibility. And we need to cultivate this ethical sensibility, provided one is able to live up to a certain ethical standard. Just a second, I have
There seems to be some disturbance.
Yes, sir.
Due to rain.
Professor Singh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
That's what. Yeah. Now there was suddenly the self-driving mode appeared on my mobile. So sorry. Yes. So I am going on by saying that Professor Singh has this concern about leading an ethical life that is sensitive towards the need of the other. And if one is sufficiently sensitive towards the need of the other, one can overcome the ethical hollow in which one is residing. So this is an alternative conception of a different kind of a life, which is an ethical life, all the time sensible and sensitive towards the need of the other. And that's where other appears not just as a means, but as an end in itself. This is what I have argued in my last argument. Now, going further, Professor Singh contextualizes an ethics of commitment to right action. As I was talking about an active action, commitment to right action is something authentic. Without that kind of an authentic commitment to right action, it's not possible to create a sense of righteous love, a sense of fraternity, a sense of bonding with the other. And this bonding will be possible provided one does not really follow a kind of an ordinary path of renunciation, but one remains committed to the goal of treating others as an end in itself. And here comes the kind of necessity for which one should treat others as an end in itself. Professor Singh says it's a kind of challenge to survival, and challenge to survival in every sense, in a deeper ecological sense, in a deeper moral sense, in a deeper sense of arriving at a state of selflessness, at a deeper sense of raising our consciousness to a level when we are able to integrate ourselves to the needy, to commit ourselves to hard work, and to part our income, to share our income with the needy, as a kind of an ethical prescription, and to dedicate our entire life to the business of living ethically at every moment. And this is something that is meant for sustaining our own life. It's not merely survival or subsisting. It's sustaining our life in togetherness, in co-belonging to a community, that one commits oneself to the right action. So therefore, one has to understand clearly what is good and what is evil. And this idea of good and evil is something that Professor Singh here brings out from examples of literature. The character of Macbeth, the character of Hamlet, Shakespearean characters seem to be of great interest to Professor Singh, being a professor of English. And these Shakespearean characters actually illuminate some of his ethical conceptions. Hamlet's dilemma, for example, is something like a dilemma of renunciation, while Macbeth's action, the way Macbeth acts, is surely a path towards something that is evil. So all the time we are divided between the good and the evil, and the choice is ours, which one we choose. In order to remain committed to right action, we have to sort of abdicate the evil. We have to remove the evil from our life as much as possible. And we can do that provided we have a practical, rational point of view, which in a prescriptive sense is a kind of adoption of ethical reasoning, a kind of moral reasoning in every instance of life, so that we do not embroil ourselves in an unjust manner, in a dilemma which we cannot solve, or in a situation which is akin to war, bloodshed, and many other such bigger evils that afflict our present modern state of life, both at the national level and the international level. So therefore, Professor Singh is in search of reintroducing a moral consideration in his quest for finding a genuine moral ground of determining what is right and what is wrong, what is good, what is evil, and how one should shape up one's own character in order to respond to the bigger situations of warfare or the ultimate situation of, again, surviving in terms of co-belonging, in terms of co-sharing, in terms of sharing with others and standing for the needy and live a righteous life accordingly. So therefore, Professor Singh gives a kind of a no reproach point of view as far as ethical action is concerned. He says that what we think and what we say actually is a small portion of our life. What remains unsung, unsaid, and about which we are unconscious or probably unconsciously silent, actually gives us the right cue to understand and discover where lies the ethical reality. The ethical reality lies in wherever we feel ourselves as fragile, as broken, as not being able to speak, something that is unsaid, something that is not so clearly expressed, something that is tacit, something that is implicit. These are the sublime resources of our ethical life, from which we need to derive an ethical principle and bring it in our practical, rational life by way of ethical reasoning and practice and cultivate a kind of ethical action in our life in the open. This is a very, very interesting argument. And therefore, no reproach to ethical life is a kind of uncompromising approach for the good. But as far as evil is concerned, Professor Singh knows that evil is something that secretly, silently enters in life. One is not aware how the evil comes. So he leaves open this little scope of the entry of the evil, how to really come out or overcome this possibility of evil entering into someone's life. To that, Professor Singh doesn't give a clear answer, but I think it's possible to develop an answer to this question by looking at the kind of decisionism that we have, whether these decisions that we are taking about solving a practical issue is ethical or not, whether ethics is given priority over politics, ethics is prioritized over personal interest, ethics is prioritized over our aesthetic interest. The priority of the ethics is the way out, as far as Professor Singh is concerned, because his is an exemplar-based ethics that tries to deal with our existential dilemmas. And therefore, ethically speaking, our sense of what ought one do must be based on a graceful transaction. It should be gracious. Without grace, ethics is not possible. The priority of ethics is established based on a sense of grace, a grace that comes from elsewhere, and a grace that goes from oneself to another. And that is something very, very important. And therefore, Professor Singh is talking about an idealized understanding of ethical life, and hence he wants to expand the scope of ethics to a set of radical choices which are more enlightening, which are based on our clear commitment to right action. And this is what is his concern. I call it the principle of deep concern that illuminates through his book called Transformation, and he beautifully combines his poetic, literary, and the ethical selves in the mold of his creative way of understanding the ethical hollow and his ways to come out, ways that he prescribes to come out of that ethical hollow. I think with these words, I'll stop here because I can see our colleagues are trying to move out. Professor Singh, it's for you now or others. Any question, any comment, I'm available to you. Yeah.
Dr. Shalini, please come over.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prasenjit, sir, for covering wide range about the thematic concerns and philosophical concerns of Dr. Anand's works. Now, I would like to invite our next guest, Dr. Bina Singh, I think is not present here, sir. And Arindam, sir. I think Arindam, sir, is also not there. Bhagirath, sir, is also, I have checked, not there. Lalit, Mohan, sir, also has left due to some issues. So I would like to invite Dr. Swaraj Raj, sir. And I would introduce Dr. Swaraj Raj, sir, is a former professor and head department of English, faculty dean, and professor emeritus, GGSWU Fatehgarh Sahib University. So, sir, please give your insights about the works of Anand, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Shalini. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Dr. Sab, I find it very tough to speak after Dr. Prasenjit Bosa's beautiful Biswas, beautiful talk. Anyway, my work has been made all the more tough by 4 minutes that have been given to me. I know it is tough, especially, given the fact that you are a very prolific writer and you have published more than 150 books. Sizing up anything in 4 minutes is an impossible task. And I believe that even if I had to speak for 1 hour, even then it would have been, impossible in the same way. And especially, when I have known you for a long time. So I would like to go take some kind of a retrospective look at the past to say something about you in the given time slot. My association with Dr. Anand goes back to 1995. When he was slowly but steadily finding his feet as a poet in English language. He had already written a novel in English by that time, and the title was The Broken Narrative, which focused on human relationships in rural Punjab, particularly on the immorality of incestuous relationships. The concern of this and other early works were mundane. But even the early works gave evidence of the fact that the mundane was not the realm where Dr. Jernail was destined to work. Even the broken narrative manifests his preoccupation with moral and ethical issues, and by implication with the affairs of the spiritual and mystical nature, which he explores with commendable focus in all his later works. This is where his voice finds its most potent agency. Coming to, I have a different approach towards Dr. Jernail's major concerns. One recurring theme that I find in most of his recent works is the gap that separates the world from what it ought to be than what it actually is. The errant world, as Dr. Laksmisree said, and a world which is marked by ethical hollow, as Dr. Biswas suggested. This is the gap between is and ought. Consequently, this dilemmatic space between is and ought is the space most of Dr. Anand's poetic selves occupy, which I must confess are intimately autobiographical. Given the limits of time, I will quote what to me are just one or two most important or representative examples of his stance in the way I look upon his interests. In the poem, Whatever, for example, I'll quote only just 4 lines. He writes, while the Lord has to recite immoral verses, people fight and kill over spurious ego and deny an inch to kinsman of land which belongs to earth. Now, it's apparent that in the last few lines of this poem, his disquiet, his restlessness, a annoying feeling of existential angst, and the anger which we find in this poem, they stem from his desire to see some moral order on the chaos of life, on life which is marked by chaos today. In other words, the desire to shape this world into a utopia of his dreams. In the sense, his concerns span the whole gamut of concerns from the quotidian to the transcendental, the concerns that are his this worldly and otherworldly, spiritual. Since he wishes to have an ideal world, his desperation speaks loud and clear when he realizes that the present world is not what he wishes it to be. Toward the end of an excerpt from The Extended Ode of Life, a poem published in his master's voice, he claims, so the Satan has already reaffirmed his superiority over God. It is a matter of time that he rules like an emperor, but in certain respects, his admiration of the world has commenced and God is driven out of the scene for good. So it is a kind of world in which we find ethical hollow, marked by ethical hollow at the center. He accepts that these binaries are untenable. You cannot really divide the good from the bad completely. There cannot be complete separation of the two. And yet, his poetic universe is populated by gods and demons and binaries, by and large, because he's so much concerned about the presence of evil and how to get rid of evil. This is where his ethical stance becomes really very important, about which Dr. Prasenjit has spoken a lot. I'll not go into that. Even Lustus, his most cited work, operates within these binaries. And in his poem, Life, and I'll leave it because it is about how he rejects binaries at times. Well, to me, Dr. Aanand, in Schopenhauer's fashion, understands that the world as thing in itself is the world of will, which is blind, unconscious, and beyond our comprehension. Whereas the world we cognize empirically exists solely as a representation in our minds. As a poet-thinker, as a poet-philosopher, one could say, he knows his limitations to change the world, but he still keeps waging the struggle to change it, and throws many a warning to his readers, as he does in the concluding lines of his poem of Peace, Poetry, and War. There is only one poetry that stands between a peaceful heaven and a desperate hell. Now, it is here that we find most of his ethical concerns are centered. How to make our life better, how to get out of the morass of evil into which we have fallen, how to come out of our own selfish, narrow confines, how to give up on our own narcissism and are able to help others unselfishly, unconditionally. Thank you. With that, I'll end my talk. I think I did not exceed the time limit.
Thank you, Dr. Swaraj. Now I would like to invite our next guest speaker, Mr. Rawle Iam James, sir. Sir is a senior poet and philosopher from Canada, president of Inspired Literary Corner and fellow, International Academy of Ethics. So I would like to invite Rawle, sir, for a few words about Jernail sir's work. Rawle sir, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
He does not shy away. He cannot stand still. When time requires a voice, the pen becomes his sword, and his words a reflection of our humanity. He's not just a man of and for the people. He is a man and voice of our humanity. His words are like a mirror that invites you to look at yourself. I'm so honored to be here today to offer a few words about my friend, Dr. Jernail. Congratulations to you. When we talk about your two books coming out, Master's Voice. Master is an interesting word. It's not a word of definition of dominance, but a mastery of craft. One that spent a lifetime honing his skills, that itch, as I said, not being able to sit still, pen constantly in hand writing, and the transformation. If you think of the phoenix before it rises out of the ashes, it struggles within the ashes. The rising is the transformation, but the struggle within the ashes is really the struggle of looking at what is right and wrong, what is good and bad, what is good and evil. We speak of evil in the world, but evil can only exist if evil is within us. If good is truly in the world, then good is there because it's within us. So Dr. Jernail's writings, his words, his poetry, his philosophy, is truly a mirror that when the reader stands before it, it challenges them to go, it's more important to not just talk about ethics, but to really understand how are you going to walk and live ethics. How can you be balanced within the good and the evil that exists within you? And not to stifle one over the other, but to truly understand them both so one does not dominate and becomes your master. Because I think when we try to suppress the evil, the bad that exists in us, it looks to dominate and become our master. And I think his works are a reflection of what's going on in our times, because whether you agree with him religiously, ethically, spiritually, it doesn't matter. For his words are a mirror that you're looking into. And it's not so much do you agree with him, what do you know of yourself? Can you look at what's going on in the world and say, there is something fundamentally wrong with how we live today? We've become so dependent on technology and convenience that we forego ethics and we find ways to justify it. So his pen is his sword. He is a man of the people and for the people, a voice of our humanity. His words are like the phoenix that rises, and as it rises, the ashes are flung off its wings as it comes into its prominence of transformation. I believe it is his hope that we engage again, not in a collective ethical conversation, but the individual conversation, the individual understanding of ethics, right and wrong, good and bad. As complex as this world has become because of technology and our one-sided thinking, this universe, this world is still very basic, good and bad. This contrast, this duality, you cannot know one without the other. The question is, which one do you want to dominate? Which one do you want to be more prevalent in your daily life? This is what I take away, not just when I read his words, but when I engage with the man. We haven't had a conversation in a while, Dr. Jernail. I look forward to doing that, but the few times that I've had the opportunity to speak with you, that's what I take away from you. Part of being ethical is also being humbled, being grateful for the great gifts that you've been blessed by with your Creator. Once again, we do not have to share the same philosophy and belief in a God, but the mere fact that you have a belief, that you don't just speak, that you walk. That's, to me, the most ethical thing. So I hope that not just the gathering here today, I hope the gathering here today will go out and ripple out and share and invite others to pick up the book, but more importantly, to get to understand this man while he is still with us, because there will come a time when he will not. You hear many people talk about time and how, life is short. Well, if you compare it against the annals of time in the universe, yes. But from a human standpoint, 70, 80 years is a good chunk of time. So people that say time is short are usually the ones that have not maximized or utilized their times or mastered their craft. So when we talk about a master's voice, oops. Sorry, guys. Of course, someone's going to call while I'm doing it. But when you hear of a master's voice, when I talk about a master's voice, I hear and see someone who has dedicated his life not just to being a professor in academia, not to just being a poet or a philosopher, but someone who has made a conscious choice to master himself, to understand the good and evil within him, and to then make a further conscious choice of how he is going to walk and engage with the world. To be a voice of the people, you must truly understand thyself, understand your limitation, but more importantly, be grateful and humble for the great gifts that you've been blessed with, and then to be able to use that in a way that hopefully will inspire others to do the same. I am but a layman. I'm always honored, and I shake my head when I'm invited to hang out with such scholars and those that have actually spent time with the man, because one day we will, not we, because I'll be gone, but future generations will do further critiques and analysis of his works. And that's kind of one-dimensional because it's just words on a page, or it'll be words on a screen. So while he's here, my invitation is not just to come and praise Caesar, but to understand what drives him, truly understand the mirror that he represents, in hopes that we can transform into something greater. So congratulations, my friend. So I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Shalini, please go on.
Yes, so without much delay, I would like to invite our next, thank you, Rawle sir. I would like to invite our next guest, Shri Vinod Khanna sir, who is a poet, reviewer, trilingual author, and president, Readers and Writers Society of Chandigarh. So the podium is all yours, sir. Vinod sir.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Let me first of all congratulate Dr. Aanand upon the occasion of his launch of his books, Transformations and Master's Voice. I have read only reviews of these books, and I can only talk of his writings in general. The writings of Dr. Aanand majorly, as per me, revolve around one word, that is ethics. Morality, spirituality, and empathy are its natural corollaries, upon which he dwells during the course of his philosophical dissertations. In the eternal dilemma to be or not to be, he emphasizes upon an ethical living, but at the same time, he is well aware of the dangers and pitfalls of generalizing his concept, as the gap between what is possible and what is not is huge. One minute. I lost the script. As a yes. What is possible and what is not is a huge gap. He goes to the extent where ethics can be employed to improve upon the existing conditions of life. What I understand from this dilemma with my limited knowledge is explained here. You are welcome to differ. Talking of ethical living, the question that keeps bothering me is, does it mean that we ethically treat the Homo sapiens and Homo erectus only? Should we exclude nature and other species from such treatment? If the answer is yes, then excuse my saying that our talk of ethics is a great sham, a clever wordplay ad infinitum, devoid of any meaning. It is the ethical hollow that Dr. Biswas had been talking of a while ago. At the same time, if ethics is applied to other species, like primates and animal kingdom and nature, a large portion of human race may die of starvation. Keeping that in view, as ethical it is, the word is in inverted commas, keeping that in view as ethical human beings, can we not improve upon this situation, particularly this situation? Can we not minimize the pain involved in slaughtering of the animals? Don't we see the image of God in their eyes? Here is where the practical ethics should intervene. Coming next to his poetry book, The Master's Voice, I'm not able to decide whether Dr. Anand is a poet first or a philosopher first. His poetry is replete with the concepts of liberty, equality, fraternity, humility and humanity, and justice, which are the primary concerns of a philosopher. His poetry is simple to understand and not weighed down by heavy metaphors. You don't rush to a dictionary while reading him. In his very first poem in the book, The ICU of History, he compares the lowest organs of the body to the lowest strata of society. If these malfunction, the life would come to a standstill. But we pay the least attention to them till these are working. It reminds me of a poem by Punjabi poet Santokh Singh Dheer, who wrote a poem titled, in a similar vein, a poem titled Kyun Jo Asi Pair Haan. He says, we keep the face polished, but don't pay even half the attention to our feet, who carry the whole weight, likening the latter to the deprived strata of society. If feet are not functioning, we can't move even an inch. One can go on and on discussing Dr. Anand's works, but paucity of time wants me to stop for now. Let more of it be discussed at some other time. I thank you all for your patience, for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Khanna sir. Shalini?
Yes, sir.
So please
thank you, Khanna sir. Now I would like to invite Dr. Molly Joseph, who is a senior academician.
Just let us just invite our friends Raj Babu and Meenakshi and Tariq Muhammad. They are and Kalol Choudhary. Let them speak if they want to say something. Okay.
Tariq Muhammad sir, I think has left already, sir.
Let's call Raj Babu ji.
Okay. Raj Babu sir, please unmute yourself.
If he is around, I saw him.
Hello.
Yes.
Somehow my video is not working.
Okay.
I have power issues. Hello.
Yes, Raj Babu ji.
Can you hear, sir?
If you want to say something, you are.
I cannot tell much about the total your work, but I adore your work. I read, and you're a very exhaustive writer. There is a lot to learn from your writings. Yeah, one thing is that the good and bad both are admixture in any human's personality. Whatever it may be, we can never separate good from evil. Maybe we can have a perspective about what we are looking at in the world around, and what we grasp, how we are going to reflect in our own actions. So as you also say that what we say, what we think, and what we act should have a synchronization, and every human being knows truth about himself. There is none has to tell. If he doesn't realize now, at one point in his life, maybe in the past or in the future, the spark will always come to him. Every human being knows about his true nature. He cannot shut his eyes or his mind. He knows. He may not express. He may not able to express. But deep down in the heart, everyone knows truth about oneself. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now I request Meenakshi is there, I think. Meenakshi Goswami?
No, she's not there.
I saw her. Mr. Kalol Choudhary was here. Mr. Kalol Choudhary? Okay. Shalini, please invite Dr. Molly Joseph.
Okay, sir. And now I would like to invite the Chief Coordinator of International Academy of Ethics, Dr. Molly Joseph, who is a senior academician and a celebrated poet and nature enthusiast. So, Madam, I would like to invite you to give your comments and share a vote of thanks with all of us.
Thank you, Shalini. I hope my voice is audible enough. Is it?
Yes, yes.
Yes. In fact, it was such a beautiful evening, maybe morning or some other time in other time zone. This was a kind of event that we had visualized much early, International Academy of Ethics, connected with felicitating Dr. Jernail on his achievements when he was planning to go over to Morocco to receive that prestigious thing. The right feather on his cap and on the cap of International Academy of Ethics. At least, as Rawle put it, there's a time for everything, time abides. There it has come with our Professor Cijo, going deep, intensely into his works and coming up with such a seminal work, which can stand the test of time. I know Professor Cijo, an unassuming person, but so much soaked into the activity he engages in with 100% sincerity. So while I was just going through, I had read it, his comments in Facebook when he put it, evaluations. His evaluations more or less were on the kind of ideological level, not exactly the theoretical part. When you analyze the structure of the poem, the nature of the poem, anything, nothing of the kind. But they were insightful readings of the rights of Dr. Jernail into the present, relating it to the present. Yes, these days I was reading a book, Man's Search for Meaning in His Life, written by Viktor Frankl, the Austrian writer. He belonged to that Holocaust time, died in 1997. What all are we up to? We, especially writers, are searching for that edge, the right meaning to our existence. And what attracted me towards Dr. Jernail Singh, his poetics, his endeavors, especially to International Academy of Ethics, was a kind of dimension he was giving to his writing, to his thinking, to bring radiance to the world. Of course, I so many times had, always when he would be putting something, he would just throw it at me because I would just seek out the flip side of it. There were times when I told him, why you're so obsessed with the black part of it, the satanic part of it, some part of it. But of course, even in lusters, the oscillation between the good and the bad, after life is like that. Who are we to sit on a pedestal and say, this is the only right thing, this is the only bad thing? Everything is relative, especially in this world of a cultural cul-de-sac, I would say. I would characterize it that. I'm not stealing much of time, but I was just asked to comment on it. Intelligent, soulful interventions were going on, his poetics, his endeavors, Dr. Jernail. I know it's no easy task to write 161 books. Just as Shalini put it, how do you write? Every day. One thought or other, there it comes. Similar situations, Sri was sometimes telling me, the dead of the night she would wake up and do write. Some muse pulls up. Such people, rare to be met with. I think twice, thrice, or more than that before I pick up my pen. And of course, this is a kind of real blessing only selected people get. And Jernail's is that of a kind of mission to redeem the world. Sir, it was such a blessing to have you as the founder chairman of International Academy of Ethics. The thought that you dissipate through your poems. In fact, I wanted to read just one poem because I wanted to tell the audience that he can condense the idea in a thing. That's a very post-modern way of treating a thing. You are not waxing eloquent, but you can treat a thing, an object on earth, to send a meaning. Shall I read it out for you, a short poem? From this book only. Insects. If you believe in sex, S-E-C-T-S, you are no more than insects. For insects can't fly and on the ground just die. They have no knowledge. There is something called flight and there is something called a sky. Earth keeps them tied to its apron string and feeds them until they die. And sometimes when it rains, they develop a few wings with which they try to fly, but only to turn carcasses and fall, while the world goes on with its glorious ball. I heard some insects forcing others to change their color, or you die. If you change the color, even then you have to die. And then in a few hours, a part of this earth lie. Insects who never realize beyond the earth, there is a light, just die without even a sigh. How powerfully he put it. So cryptic. Sometimes a kind of parody or the irony that streaks in entices us through his poetics. Divinely gifted, Dr. Jernail, you are. And as Rawle put it, the master you are. And when I would say Professor Cijo is analyzing each one in depth, I condensed my blurb like this. Listen, it is the master's voice, the voice over the waves that the world needs, the kind of sagacity, matured wisdom. So that part about my comment. And I would say, what a wonderful array of speakers we had. Basudeb and Maja, as usual, flying off and then floating her wishes. Kalpana Purohit, my friend Laksmisree, Bina was not there. Arindam couldn't make it. And these people, Lalit, Dr. Swaraj, Rawle, Vinod Khanna, each one, not simply saying, oh, it is that, does no. We are people who talk substance. And then you all put in so very well what is needed to be dealt upon today. It is your day, Dr. Jernail ji. How proud we are of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. And especially to my dear young anchor, Shalini Yadav. You are spicing up the thing. Last minute, the whole was on your part, but you willingly took it up because Parneet couldn't make it. And of course, the silent and assuming man behind it, our dear Randhir, who is the sole part of our International Academy. Dears, my friend Diane, who has stand up from US, and so many of the audience who are from different parts. I just salute all of you for sparing time with us and giving a real honor to our founder president, Dr. Jernail S. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Molly Joseph. We are thankful to Dr. Prasenjit Biswas for his very wonderful oration. And I think Shri Kalol Choudhary is around. If he wants to say something, Mr. Kalol Choudhary, we invited you earlier also.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Kalol Choudhary, yes. You can make a brief comment if you wish.
My hearty congratulations to Dr. Jernail S Aanand for the 2 books, Master Voice and Transformation. I think his book is now 160 plus 3, I think. And I also congratulate Cijo Joseph ji for critical appreciation of his works. I am fortunate to have co-authored with Dr. Jernail S Aanand. The book is The Walls of Flesh. It was published in the year 2021. Here, Mr. Ashok K. Bhargava of Canada wrote a foreword for our book. I do not think whether time is there. Just I got through the portion of the foreword. The Walls of Flesh.
You can show up, please. Show the book.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
This is the book. Thank you so much. This is the book we co-authored, and it was wonderful. Thank you so much, Chaudhary Saab, for being present. So nice of you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you to all erudite scholars here in India and also in USA.
Yeah. I am anyone else, sir, who wants to say something? There are so many of our friends. So before we just say if somebody is there, Dr. Shalini, now you take over. I am thankful to all of you, Dr. Molly Joseph, Dr. Shalini, Professor Randhir Gautam, for organizing this show. Khanna Sahab, Basudeb ji, and Prasenjit ji, and Dr. Laksmisree, Kalpana Purohit, And my friends who just left because of maybe some issues, Lalit he was here, Dr. Swaraj was there. We had actually, after listening to you, I feel so many things which I had not known about myself. That was a moving mirror in front of me. It was a lot of learning and more understanding about my work, which will somehow anyway continue, whatever it is. Thank you very much to all of you. So nice of you for being with us. Okay, bye-bye. Good night.
Thank you, Sir.